Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the
And welcome back. I'm Mike with the Turntable Teachers, and class is back in session. Here for another guest speaker episode at AOA Studios. If you're an artist, podcaster, or content creator of any kind, make sure to reach out to us at aoastudios.org to book your session or service today. And I am joined today by a very special guest. He's quite multi-talented, multifaceted. He does quite a bit out here. Again, if you're a fan of the Massachusetts music scene, kind of get to that point where most of our guests, are pretty, front-facing in the Massachusetts music scene. You should probably know who they are. But if you don't, he's a producer. He's an artist. He goes by Connis, and he's joining us here today. So great to have you, bro. It's been a long time coming. I wanted to have you up for a while.
I've tried to do this a few times. Happy to be here. Thank you for providing the space. Happy to be here, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
I was pumped when we first touched base and you wanted to come on. I was like, yeah, your guide's been on my list for sure.
Yeah, man.
And you're somebody I feel like I found your music pretty early on. Like I feel as though you were one of the first maybe like 20, 25 artists I came across, especially because when we had Felix from Van Buren on, this was like before we even did like the video podcast.
Yeah.
I know you guys have been tight for a long time. So it's like your name came up then. And that was like pre-pandemic.
Probably like 2018, 2019.
Exactly. You got it. 2019 is when we had him on. Like that's like a episode that is like well in the archives. Probably I would say that's in our first maybe 30-ish episodes. We're probably on like 100 and somewhere in the 130, 40, 50-ish range. I don't even know anymore. But yeah, so you're somebody, like I said, I've known for quite some time, and been a huge fan of your stuff, man.
Thank you.
Especially the newer stuff that you just recently dropped has been awesome, and really excited to talk to you about all your, everything you got going on.
Happy to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Let's do it.
Any fans of Connis probably don't know, but we start with the objective where we get to know a little bit about you and your background. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I think is really important to start with you is obviously growing up in Cambridge.
Yeah.
And just the melting pot that Cambridge is, but also the rich education and also art scene that Cambridge has had for a long time. And I'm really curious for you, how did the social dynamic and the melting pot that it is in terms in Greater Boston as a whole help broaden your horizons musically and particularly as a hip hop artist?
Yeah. I feel like Cambridge is like obviously like globally known as like an education like capital. It's like Harvard, MIT, and now it's almost like a Silicon Valley of like the East Coast. Like there's just Google and big tech and big money. So it's like this very prestigious, educated kind of city from like an outer lens, but it's also just like a very small town type of city where like your neighbors and there's one public high school. So unless you were a kid that went to private school, whether it's just that was with your parents how you do, or I know some kids that like played ball and they went and like played prep school outside of Cambridge, but it's just one of those cities where I feel like everybody kind of knows each other. It's like pretty densely packed. I think now the population is like a bit over 100,000, but like crazy. The square mile radius, it's not like a very big city. So you're kind of close to everything. And there's just like a lot of different walks of life. Like I feel like I had friends from all backgrounds, different classes, ethnically, culturally. I feel like I was like blessed to just grow up around a lot of different people. In general, I feel like a lot of cities that border like Boston, Greater Boston, like you feel like there are real senses of community in those cities. And there are these aspects where it just feels like kind of like some small township, but it's also like I know it's also right next to Boston too. So a lot of my experience growing up, it's like I grew up in Cambridge, but I spent a lot of time in Boston because it's literally right there. Like where I grew up in Cambridge, I could technically walk across the bridge and be in Boston in like 20 minutes. So I feel like a lot of my identity from Cambridge and from being a kid is also like tied into Boston and tied into like the city as a whole. But yeah, very blessed, very like privileged to have grown up in a place like that, and had access to a lot of different like things that I feel like a lot of like young kids don't technically get access to, just like good programs, good school, lots of good like sports programming. And yeah, it was just kind of like, I feel like it was just kind of a place where everybody kind of knew each other. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then in terms of like the musicality, so like when did you decide that you wanted to start pursuing music, even just like from a standpoint of as a hobby?
Yeah. The first times I started recording music were like beginning of when I was like 14, probably. I mean, I grew up like listening to a lot of rap music. That's like that was the music that I listened to growing up and what I was just like most influenced by. But we kind of started making music like post Jerk era. So there was like that era, like the Jerk era with like a lot of dancing and
I know you had, not to cut you off, I know you were kind of involved in like a Jerk group,
I was
right?
in a Jerk crew. No, I was in a crew, and we would like go to like parties and dance and shit, like what teenagers do. I feel like that was way more of a thing in our generation, where 100%. It was like, we were like, this is when we were kids, like we were like sober, we weren't, smoking, drinking, doing any drugs or anything. We would just go places to like parties at like youth centers and shit too. Like Cambridge provided a lot of those types of spaces. So we were, I was in like a Jerk crew when I was like probably like 13 to like, it was like my 7th into freshman year. But then like I've said before, I feel like once that kind of died off for us and it just like wasn't as cool, like this is when we kind of started making music, although they've always been intertwined. Like there's like videos out there of us like freestyling on days where we would be like filming like Jerk videos. So like they go hand in hand, like as dance and music always do.
100%.
But I would say my beginnings were like around like age like 14 and just, fucking around with it. And we were blessed to have like a media studio where we went to high school. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we would go in there. We had no idea really what we were doing. It's not like anything we were making was good, but we were just like, that's just what, that was what was inspiring us. It was like during the era of like, when Wale was really popping.
Oh, yeah.
And,
totally.
Wiz Khalifa was starting to pop off, and like Dat Piff era, like uploading tracks onto Mediafire.
Yeah, we definitely have the same generation.
Yeah, like before.
No question.
Yeah, like everything was still, that's like when like Two Dope Boys was like at its like.
Hell yeah, man. I remember Two Dope Boys. I was on all of those.
Yeah.
There was I don't know if you remember this one, and I bring this up and not that many people know about it, but me and my friends did. It's called the Carter Cartel.
The Carter Cartel.
And it was awesome. I used to find so many great music
from like Lil Wayne and
it was like Wayne inspired, but it was
a music blog.
Yeah, it was like a music blog, and then one day it just got taken down.
Really?
And I could never figure out. If anyone just jump in the comments, let me know what happened to that.
Cartel.
It was kind of crazy because I used to listen. Like there was Dat Piff. I think it was like called DJ Booth was one of them. Obviously, Hot New Hip Hop was another one.
Audio Mac was
great
around then too.
100%.
It wasn't even. I don't even know if it was like fully like a streaming service like it is now.
It wasn't. It was a lot. I feel like it was a lot more like a Dat Piff where you could upload like mixtapes and stuff like that and kind of download them. Like there was that for sure.
Yeah. So I feel like I started getting interested in making music during that era where it wasn't as accessible and like you had to really source it, and that's what made it special though. But around that time, which was like 20, I mean, it's like 2009, 2010.
2010, I was about to say, like somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Well, what I find great about your story in that, even though you're saying that you guys didn't really know what you were doing in a lot of ways, it's to your point of having the access, right?
Yeah.
Is so important and vital because, like you said, it wasn't as accessible as it is today.
Yeah,
you know, like any kid that wants to go make music. I mean, they don't have to come to this studio. Like they can if they want.
No, it's
but
pretty easy. No.
You can buy a cheap interface and a laptop, one microphone, and you can, as long as you got a decently proofed room, like you can make your own music at home realistically, or at least you can start experimenting, right? And sort of figuring out, or at least making some demos, so like for you, and your friends, like it seemed as though like for you guys to have that access at your school, huge. And almost a little ahead of the curve in the sense, because I feel like a lot of music programs now are just starting to get into that. Like the last high school I was working at, they just over the last couple of years designed a music production class where they're using, they're actually using production software and stuff like that, which is a lot obviously different than, traditionally how I grew up in music class, which was usually a snooze fest, and I just didn't want to be there.
Yeah, we were lucky. I played the trumpet in middle school and the xylophone, and I did those types of music classes. But once you got to high school, there was no requirement to do any of that. But we had like a program that like taught you like trades, basically. You could learn carpentry, you could learn culinary, and media production was like a part of that. So it was like now when you say it like that, definitely like ahead of the curve as far as, because now it's like being fluent in media and technology is like it seems like all kids are being taught that, which we weren't even really like. That was more so if you decided to like go in that direction in high school. But now it's like you need to know how to use technology, like in order, like most schooling is taught through like the medium of technology and computers.
For better or for worse too. In a lot of ways.
No, I mean it's bound to happen the way that like technology has just boomed since like the way, what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
We started recording, just how different it is and how kids are so glued to screens now. Yeah.
And then what that maybe does to them long term.
But we definitely didn't know what we were doing, but it was dope that we had an outlet to do it. And
100%.
Like, teach ourselves, and like that's how we became self-taught, like independent artists, just like trial and error.
Which is what a lot of this is, honestly. If you're willing to do that, you know what I mean? If you're willing to be somebody that, and I guess in any facet, I'll leave it to the music industry though. Like, same with me. Like in terms of podcasting, like I didn't know what the fuck I was doing when I first, recorded a podcast.
Kind of the best way to enter it, like going ahead first into something like, and I always say like, there's like, this like push for like perfectionism and being like so great at something, and like right as an artist comes out, like the first thing they put out is like perfect and golden, and then from there it's like, how do you match it? Whereas like I feel like I've followed a bunch of artists over years and years where you've heard their sound advance and you've actually heard them improve.
Those are my favorite artists.
The same way you work with, like my first videos working with like people, it's like certain directors, certain videographers, it's like, their first video they ever did is where they are now is further along. So I like the idea of being able to like see the progress and see like somebody get better in like an age and an era where there's just like expectation to come out, have it all like put together and like planned. And I like the idea of seeing people like improve and like their style like growing with them as an artist.
There's a beauty to that and that improvement. And to the artists that I've talked about a million times this podcast, so anybody that's like a avid listener of ours knows probably what I'm going to say. But like someone like right behind you, like a Tyler the Creator or a Mac Miller, right? When I initially, more so on the Mac Miller side, I wasn't a huge fan of him initially. That sort of college pop rap wasn't like my thing at that time. But I love what Mac ended up doing on the back end of his career, because his growth was just so apparent. And the same thing with Tyler. Like I don't think that's why I love Flower Boy so much and Igor, because when you first heard Tyler, I don't think a lot of people ever expected he was ever going to go in a direction like that more lush, jazzier, soulful production. And it actually, added to his benefit and made him more of a legitimate household name than he would have been just based on, what he did with Odd Future, which again was very successful. But, that was kind of almost a blip in time versus like it's given Tyler longevity. I even talk about it too with Anderson .Paak. Like he didn't really blow until he was like early to mid 30s. So it's like, do you really need to be like you said, like at that start, like, and then it's almost, maybe you're almost more equipped for it and ready for it if you're a little bit more seasoned once you've gotten to that point versus you see a lot of these artists crash and burn if they get hot early. Not all of them, but There's a
Yeah, it's
lot
just
of
harder.
cases. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Mac and Tyler are like great examples of if you look at their first projects and like if you look at like Kids versus like Swimming.
Oh my
like,
God.
the music,
It's
like
crazy.
the music is, but like they're also like it's also like he was literally a kid when he started, when
Absolutely.
he came out. So
Yeah.
but yeah, those are great examples of artists that I feel like that I have like a lot of respect for because I feel like I've like grown up alongside them.
Totally.
And their sound has changed with, like as our age is as we've aged and gone
Yeah.
older. Yeah.
100%. 100%. I like even someone like Andre 3000 who, I'm such a, like, that was like my actual entry point into hip hop was
Yeah.
Outkast.
Yeah.
And, for him to finally put out a solo album, as a longtime Outkast fan, it was difficult for it not to be a hip hop album. But when I sort
His
of,
path. It's just his
right,
path,
when I took a step back from it and I was like, all right, this is just where he's at. And how cool is it now that he's able to put out a whole wind album and just playing flutes and all these sort of things. Like, even if it's not my cup of tea necessarily, like there's still beauty in that. There's still beauty in that growth and not staking. Cause like, I don't know, even with my podcast, like this, is structured different than it was 2, 3, 4 years ago. Like anything that's good in time, it should inevitably grow. Unless it kind of hits a stride and then maybe you're in that space of like, all right, I'm just going to kind of hit the stride for a while. But I feel like anything should be in that growth period, always.
No, we definitely started off just recording over Lil Wayne instrumentals over, like over whatever. And like,
probably whatever you get your hands on.
You compared the first thing I ever made to like the most recent thing I had ever made, you'd be able to be like, all right, well, this person has been on a whole journey.
Sure.
100%. Which is the beauty of it.
100%. I do want to pivot very slightly and almost like fast forward a little bit because I've read somewhere that this is a couple years ago, that you value seclusion in your artistry. Like that alone time allows for you to kind of understand maybe what direction you want to go in sonically, lyrically, all that sort of stuff. And you really value that. But I also know that you lived in like an artist hub of some sort in Jamaica Plain for a while. So I'm curious, like, how has the contrast of working in both environments, like in seclusion, but also kind of in an artist hub, helped to inspire you? Like, do you see a commonality, like, from a thematic standpoint or a sonic standpoint with music that you've made in seclusion versus music you've made in conjunction with other people? Or is that not really like a thing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, I think a lot of my sound or my influence, there's something about like taking yourself on those artist dates, like the solo time that you have that's like between you and your art, that I find like very sacred and like that nobody could fully understand except me, and everybody has their own version of that for themselves. But also like I think collaboration is probably like the biggest way that I get influence. Like I get influenced by the people that I'm around and the musicians that I work with. So it's interesting. I mean, I feel like they're probably, so if I were to go, I mean, I've made like songs, like written and like completed songs all on my own, like just me in the room. And they'd probably be maybe different if someone else was in the room. Also, maybe I wouldn't just be me on the song. It could be another artist that ended up being on it. I feel like they're both important to me. I think I could never like choose. I think.
Oh no, I'm definitely not. I think that balance is important.
Yeah. I think. I mean, I think solitude is like is a place where there's like the least amount of noise for me. So there have been periods where I really just like, have my like mantra and like producing and going into like writing something with just me in the room. But then there are times where it's just me in the room and I just hit a roadblock and I'm just like, I probably need like a second opinion on this. So it's hard to say. Like I can't really like imagine. And also like every I kind of consider myself to be somewhat of like an album artist. Like I feel like most people that are fans of my music like have really like followed my albums and have like listened to like my bodies of work through. And if you listen to like any of my bodies of work, like I always have features on them, and I always have somewhat like recurring faces on my projects. So yeah, it like I love being alone, and I love the inspiration that I can source from like going out, getting into nature, like no one else around me. But then I also source so much inspiration from those nights where I'm just like out, like fucking around with my friends. And yeah, I don't think I could do music without having both of those, because I think there's a different energy and a different voice, like higher plane that's like speaking to you when you're really in your solitude, lonesome spot. But then there's like nothing's gonna inspire you like your friends and the people that you're making art with. Like,
Right.
though that's what keeps all of us going. I mean, usually when you hear some shit that makes you want to one up.
Sure.
So yeah. It both are really important to me. And yeah, the time like in JP, that was such like a hub of, we had so many, felt like such an integral and like formative time in the Boston scene in like 2019 before the pandemic. And yeah, that was probably, I would think that in my years of making music, that's probably like the most inspired I've ever been, because I felt so hungry being around so many other hungry people during that era.
Yeah. And it's funny because that's kind of when I sort of got into the scene, and I feel like I've seen such a growth in the last 5 years. It's really incredible to have witnessed. And we just had Mari from 99 Neighbors on pretty recently, and he was talking about how like their house that they had in Burlington, Vermont, where kind of 99 Neighbors became formed, but there were so many different creatives coming into that space, and the way he described it, it sounded so chaotic. But he seems as though, just from his presence and his, like, me knowing of what I do know of him, he thrived in that environment.
Yeah.
Right. So I was curious to, obviously get your input on it, because you've shown to have been able to thrive in both environments. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, not to say that he can't make music in seclusion.
Peaceful, quiet
but it just seemed as though from his standpoint, him, Con Swank, everybody that's in 99, Hank, they seemed as though that they really were able to thrive in that environment. And it was a special time, and feels like the JP house was sort of a similar situation.
Yeah, there was definitely, it wasn't like always chaotic, but I feel like part of being an artist, I think you have to know how to thrive in both environments where there's a lot going on and like almost nothing going on. Because when there's nothing going on, it's like up to you to source like the inspiration from within. But yeah, no, I feel like you have to be able to like, especially with rap, like rap is, at the end of the day, I mean, it's rooted, I think it's rooted in a lot of things, but there's competitive nature to rap. Like you have to know how to like come correct in a big room full of people.
Totally.
I think that's something that was huge for me growing as an artist, even doing shows in New York when I was like really young. People would just be like, who the fuck is this dude? And you kind of have to really prove something and like, step up and know how to write a verse in 15 minutes and record it and nail it, and like in a room full of 20 other people that are trying to fucking get on the mic.
Exactly.
It's really a part of like the origins of hip hop in my eyes. Yeah.
Versus in that seclusion, you can take your time with it. Right.
Yeah.
So there's like, I think it's really a fascinating, both situations. Duality is a perfect word for it, because you're right. Like every artist I've talked to, or at least most artists I talk to, they don't. It's almost impossible. I think in music in general is not necessarily solely supposed to be something that's done on your own.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like maybe some different types of art, it would be a little bit different. Like if you're a painter, I can see like maybe wanting. I mean, you're probably, maybe I'm just ignorant, but as a painter, maybe you're not constantly collaborating with somebody, because that's such an inspiration. Music is such of a different context where it can live in both spaces, but that collaboration
It's a team
piece is
sport.
always important, right? Which kind of actually leads us into the main lesson, which is where we talk a little bit about what you got going on now. And this is more of a generic question, so you can kind of take this however you wish, because you've just I didn't really want to pigeonhole this necessarily, because you just collaborated with so many artists and producers like over the years, and which I'm sure is not only a credit to yourself as an artist, but just the nature of the Boston scene, and just, you know, you clearly taking advantage of that, being immersed in that.
Yeah.
So for you, like, as both an artist and somebody who produces, right? You make beats and stuff like that. Like, when do you feel, you know, is there like, man, I'm trying to ask this in the best way I can. Is there specific moments where certain artists or collaborators seek you out for production, and like that's a thing that, like, it's very specific, like they're asking that of you? Same thing with the artistry, or is it just like you get in a room with people you've collaborated with, and like maybe there's a day where you choose to sort of, I don't want to say take a back seat, but maybe you're more in that production space versus the days in which you actually want to be a full facing artist and get on the mic and like, and is it different with certain artists you've worked with? Like, is there certain artists, like I obviously like with someone like Low Effort, that we get to some of that collaboration in just a second, but like, you know, that seems like you being more of the full, you know, full facing front artist versus exactly versus certain artists. Maybe you've been more on the production side.
I think,
and if there's specific moments.
Yeah, I think, I feel like occasionally, like, people will source me, people be like, I'm working on something, and then they'll be like, I need a verse from you, or I want some beats from you. A lot of times and over the past couple of years, I mean, I've been producing also since I was really young, but I would say, like, over the past, like, I don't know, I guess, over the past, like, 5 years, I've just really leaned into that more and been like DJing more, and that's like influenced my production and my music. A lot of times, like, if I make some shit, especially like if it's like if it's rap, like if it's like some rap stuff, if I make something, a lot of times, like, I'm just gonna like text it to the person that like after I'm done making it, I'm sitting there listening to it, I'm like, all right, like, I could fuck with this, but like, who do I really hear on this? So a lot of times, it's just a text message. Sometimes it's just sending something out.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Like a little gift for some.
Yeah.
So you're just dropping gifts out there to certain artists.
Like, I maybe might not even like fully arrange whatever I just produced. It could just be like a 30-second loop, but I'm like, you know, can you fuck with this? And then other times it's like, you know, a plan session, like we're gonna link up and then going through a whole bunch of different ideas and things, talking, seeing where the person's at. I guess it really varies. I mean, like, and for me, my relationship with like, I've been stepping into like music making that isn't like super rap centered. And when I do that, I feel like I like to work with more instrumentalists and like to work with more producers who are more like talented with instruments. But when it comes to, like producing like rap music, a lot of times it's just like being in a room working on something, like probably with some other people in the room, but I'm like, oh, this, like, I should send this to Kadeem, or like send this to like, you know, whomever. And then after, you know, and then you pop out, you run into people, you're like, oh, you know, it's good to see you. We got to get up. And then like, then we'll link up, and I'll have already gone into it with some idea of like, all right, if, you know, if we're going to work on some shit together where I'm like writing and doing vocals, then maybe we'll go more this direction. But if I'm just trying to get them a beat, I'm like, I hear you on this. So I feel like they both inform each other. Like my beat making informs like my writing. And I mean, in most cases, if I produce something, I'm like, all right, I can fuck with this. But I haven't been as like as I think I've been a little bit more hungry on the production tip, as far as like I haven't even let all my shit fly, but I've just been like stacking up a lot over the past couple years. I got like really back into sampling too, so I just have a lot of shit in my pocket with that. And I released like an instrumental album in the past. It was months ago now. It was probably like it was it was this year, I think. Yeah, it was definitely earlier in the year.
I remember. I was gonna say. I remember you putting it out. The name of it is escaping me.
House
though.
cleaning music.
That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
house cleaning music. And in a sense, like I feel like some people will say, like, I think you could listen to, my last solo full length that I put out in like 2021, almost. Yeah, it's been 3 years. I think you could listen to that and get very informed about who I am as an artist. But I also feel like you could listen to house cleaning music and get a really good idea about how my brain works as an artist through like my production. So,
Sweet.
yeah, I feel like I have them like separate, but they don't function without like. I'm always thinking in a producer mindset, and even before I got really into, even when I'm working with people who may really be producing these songs. Playing all the instruments, or I'm always thinking in a production arrangement mindset. Like that's what I think part of making like a full song. Like I think everybody should lean into and have some knowledge of production, whether it's vocal production or beat making, because it's just gonna inform how you write music. Like a lot. Yeah.
It probably makes that communication a lot easier too if people are more well versed. Like I had this conversation even on the engineering side with God and Malik Elijah more recently of them talking about like, yeah, we went to school for audio engineering. We're now artists. We're not like full-fledged engineers anymore.
Yeah.
But just having all that terminology, it's so much easier when I'm working with other people. Like Gio explained this a little bit more in depth than Malik did, but Malik and I definitely talked about it too, where he was saying like, it's just easier. Like I can go into a session and I can tell the engineer exactly what I want, and I can use that terminology where they understand it versus just like, because I've seen like funny, videos where like engineers will make and they're oh, I want, I don't know how they even say it, but they make fun of like artists almost in the way in which they get into sessions.
You don't need to be like an expert at all. You just need to be like slightly, you don't need to be anything, but being like slightly well versed in just like that's just your style. Once you know your style, like if you have a sound, like you're gonna be going back to a lot of the same tricks in your music, and as long as you know like whatever words, terms, mixing notes that are associated with that, like it'll help. Like and I feel like now in this era, it's like you see people do everything. Like I mean. I do my cover art. I do video stuff. Like
Yeah, you do a lot more than
yeah. And I
forgot that you did videos too.
Part of I think that's just part of the times. But it's like the more you know, the better in anything.
100%. No, I agree. I mean, that's why like having this space has allowed for me to grow as a creative. Like I don't even know if I necessarily even saw myself as creative until. Maybe the last 5-6 years, but like, it's been, I think certain, like you said, I think it's just good to be more well-versed in some other things than possible. Like, again, I was even saying to you off air, like I would love, it's not like a necessity for me to do it, but I would love to learn how to at least record, in Pro Tools and record an artist.
It's not that
like,
hard, really.
It's really not. No, I know. I've
YouTube.
heard. Yeah, I know exactly. Like, if there's other, so many other things I'm in right now, but I would love at some point to sit down and actually learn how to do that because I just think it'd be good to have in the back pocket.
Yeah, I'll inform this too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. I do want to talk a little bit more specifically about a couple of songs and obviously the album you have coming with Low Effort. But before we do that, I do want to shift over to a segment we call Pop Quiz. So in Pop Quiz, for anyone that's a fan of Connis and just being introduced to us for the first time, Pop Quiz is a segment where we ask our guests rapid fire questions. Now, most of these questions don't have to do much with music, but they all have to do something with you.
Oh, okay.
So they're all about you.
Sweet.
So there's pretty much no way you can fail.
I appreciate you going deep enough to source that. It's a very Nardwuar thing.
I keep getting that. I like to think I'm like, maybe Boston's version of it, but maybe, obviously he's the GOAT. Like I'm not trying to be Nardwuar, but again, everyone gets influenced by anywhere.
By him.
100%. He's fantastic. And Sean Evans is another guy I like to say too from Hot Ones.
Yeah. He's great. He pulls some good ones out.
He pulls some great stuff, and his stuff's a lot more like Nardwuar's got the shtick, and I love that. Sean Evans is a little bit more
straight shooter.
Yeah. It's like more informative and
let's do it.
Clean
That's
cut.
fun.
But anyway, all right. So my first 3 questions to you are actually true or falses. I think they're all true, but I would like a little more context on each one.
Sure.
True or false? You tried to make a living out of Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Shit. Not like actually true. Like I don't even want to say false. It's almost like a joke, but if I could have, I would have. So, yeah, honestly, fuck it. Yeah, true. I would, because if it was an opportunity to, I played a lot of Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I don't even know how you'd make a living out of it, but if there was a way, I would have. So, yeah, true, sure.
Cool. Are you big? You're like a big roller coaster guy, or
No, not at
so
all.
much?
No,
That's so fun.
I just played that game growing up, and I love like the design of it. Like the interface is fire, and just like the fact that you could just like got me really into like design and architecture.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just loved that game when I was a kid. That game was fire. Zoo Tycoon was fire too, but the original Roller Coaster Tycoon is like that's my shit.
Sweet.
Yeah.
True or false? One of your biggest pet peeves is talking on the phone with someone who's got their Bluetooth on in the car.
Yeah, true. Like
I hate
when
that
you
as
can
well.
get like the background.
Echoey, yeah.
Yeah, the quality is worse. Yeah, I'm very specific about sounds and frequencies. So my sister will call me a lot, and right when she answers, I know if she's in her car doing it, and I fucking hate it because
You're like, call me
it
back when you're not in
sounds
the car.
worse. It sounds like tinny. You just get weird frequencies. You almost have to scream into that shit. I hate it. Yeah, I hate when people call me on Bluetooth. Bluetooth headphones is different. Like
No, the AirPods are different.
Fine, because they have good microphones. But yeah, like the car Bluetooth
can be
is so
it can
bad.
be echoey.
I fucking hate it.
My mom hates that too. Like if I'm in the car, like I got to throw it on speaker instead
no,
of the Bluetooth because she's like, oh my god, I can't even talk. I can't even hear myself.
I hate it. I hate talking. I hate when it's done to me, and I don't even do it to other people.
Yeah, fair
I don't wanna
enough.
put
Yeah,
them
I
through
stopped
it.
doing that a long time ago. So when
That's
I heard
funny.
that, I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I hate that too.
Facts.
I'm sure most people do.
Yeah.
True or false? You once chased down a guy who threw a water bottle at your car.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, me and Soap talk about that a lot. Yeah, that was a funny moment. Damn, that's funny that you know that. Should I get? I'll give context. Yeah, I was driving down Memorial Drive in Cambridge, and this guy was taking his sweet time. And like, if you know, like the intersection of where like the JFK bridge meets that, like it's like people have gotten hit by like people have died over there. Like it's like it's like a freeway almost. And this dude was just like a classic. Like he was probably some type of fucking grad student at Harvard or something. He was just like, might have also been representing and encapsulating like some type of like new Cambridge vibe that I just throws me off. But yeah, he was taking his sweet time, and I like beeped at him from afar as in like, I'm not gonna hit you, bro, but like get out of the street. And he threw his water bottle in my car, so I pulled over, and Soap got in the driver's seat, and yeah, I chased him down. I slapped the shit out of him. I'm not gonna lie. I've never really like assaulted someone in daylight, but I definitely slapped the shit out of him. It was a whole scene, and I ran off, and nothing ever became of it. But yeah, that's probably one of my. I'm not a violent person at all, but this dude, he needed to get slapped. Like,
You know what? He's probably better off
also,
for
you
it.
can't be throwing a whole like it was like a whole like it wasn't even this size. What this is
Like a 16
this
ounce
is 16
or a 16
ounce. It was like
foot.
one of like the 24 ones, and it was like full, and it was like almost kind of cracked.
Could be.
You know, you
could
throw
be
that at a certain
deadly. It
angle,
hits you in the
this
right
will-
spot. Yeah,
you know, it
could
was
be a
like-
deadly web. Hit you in the eye or something like that.
He threw it at
could be bad.
right at my it was that's fucking hilarious. But yeah, that was Soap was there. Soap knows about that.
Appreciate you giving some context on
Yeah.
that. I've heard you're a big sneakerhead in high school. What was your favorite pair that you had and why?
My favorite pair. I would say before I say my favorite, I'd say the rarest pair I had was because I got the favorite's hard.
All right.
I will say favorite, but my rarest pair was I had the Myro Olympic 7s, Jordan 7s. I used to scour like eBay and Soul Collector and like find shit for the low, and then wear it a few times and end up trying to resell it like 2 years later or something. That was probably my rarest. My favorite pair, it's hard to say. Like I have some old faithfuls. I mean, in high school at that age, what was hitting the hardest? Trying to think, because sometimes I'm trying to think of what my taste was then, because it wouldn't be my favorite now. My taste was more questionable then with my sneakers.
I would say the same in terms of just clothing in general. for me,
Yeah,
too.
I would say maybe like I was a big Jordan head, probably like the Grape 5s or like the Black Cement 3s. Those are just like faithful classics. And if not that, I mean, shit, the Space Jams too, the Space Jam 11s. That was just such like a moment in time, and like I, went out to what store did I get them from? I got them in Central Square at forget what it was. It might have been an Eblin's. Yeah, I went out there at like 6 a.m. and like missed like school to like go get these kicks. So probably Space Jams, Black Cements, or the Grape Fives were like my like favorites. It's hard to say which, but yeah.
Cool. So we talked a little earlier about, you being in a jerk group and that you were, from what I've heard, you're a pretty good dancer. And I know that like in our era, like that plus like the Soulja Boy dances were obviously like iconic, right? Do you think that there's a dance that's been sort of a trend in the last few years that maybe would at some point hold up to that or be on that like iconic level of those dances that we had back in the day? And then of course probably like the generation before us was probably a lot of Michael Jackson.
I don't even know, because it's like it feels like in this day and age with TikTok, it's like there are millions of like there are literally millions of routines. So I'm like, what is the lifespan of these like new age ones? Like I don't even know, but yeah, because I'm even thinking, like, when I think of, like, just the most, what are some good ones? I mean, off the top of my head,
was a tough
I
question.
see so much, like, I get so much Charlie XCX content, and her Apple dance is, like, always going up. But I don't know.
Solid album, I can't lie.
I think it all depends on what your taste is, if it'll hold. But I'm trying to think of a universal one. Fuck, man. I mean, it's just not. I don't think it's like. I don't know. I bet you like it's really not even up to me. I guess it's up to like a 16-year-old who's on TikTok heavy that's really gonna decide, because whatever dance is the most like up right now, I don't even know if I know it, because it's not like, dances back then. Like it was like you got them off like MySpace or YouTube, and it was like everybody knew about it. Now it's like there's probably so many. Like I'm curious what a 16-year-old would say to that, and they probably have an answer that will like inform their generation in the future. But I feel like there's definitely one that's not. There's just like certain like dance things, like people will be doing this a lot, like that's gonna last. I feel like that one will always last for like the generation below me, and then like that's even crept into mine.
What's the one that the kids were doing with the Fortnite where they were like going
that one too? Like
I feel like every Celtics game I would
Uzi,
go to.
Yeah, actually, I mean the Uzi, the dances that Uzi has done over the years, like those are prolific. Those will hold up. But I don't know, nothing will hold up like, Soulja Boy, chicken noodle soup. Like, those. I don't think anything compares to the prolificness of those ones.
Yeah, because I even feel like the generations before us know those, which is like, which is a testament.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then even before, I mean, the most prolific ones are the ones that our parents like. Yeah, you talking about like the Michael Jackson era and like those whole choreographed ones. Like the ones that we were even doing were like pretty simple. Anybody can learn them, but like
100%.
Yeah, it's a good question though.
Yeah, when I asked you, I almost didn't ask you because I'm like, this is such a broad question. Maybe it would have been a tough, and very niche. But you're a huge fan of The Sopranos. What's your favorite episode or moment from the show?
Favorite episode? I think my favorite episode. There are a lot of fucking good ones. I mean, I go back and forth. I think when Tony is like really. I like different episodes for different reasons. When Tony's kind of at like one of his worst like mental health moments, and he's taking like, I forget which if it was lithium, he's taking like a bunch of different antidepressants and SSRIs, and like he essentially starts hallucinating, and his neighbors are out of town, and there's that like beautiful, super bad Italian woman that he sees in the yard next door, and has this whole, like, he was basically just hallucinating like off, from these medications, and dreamt this whole woman into existence. And then when his neighbor gets back, he was like, so what happened to that so-and-so that was here taking care of the house? And he's like, what are you talking about? That's an amazing episode. It's really artful. That's up there for me. I mean, the one when he goes to when he goes to Italy is amazing too. I love the one when he does peyote in the desert. But fuck, there's so many good ones. I think people always say Pine Barrens when Chris and who is it? It was Chris and what's his name? They get stuck in like the woods in New Jersey and they're trying to kill the Russian dude. People always lean on that one, but I think that one's it's so hard. I think every episode of that show is amazing in its own right. But then also when he's, I mean, not to spoil, but when he's in the coma and he takes on the whole Kevin Finnerty character and he starts talking in his real voice, not his like Tony Soprano acting voice. Those episodes are amazing because they're playing with like life and death and consciousness in such like a crazy way. And the last one I'll say is that I think the episode when his mom dies is so good and hilarious because he says, "What are you gonna do?" He says that like 30 times in the episode, and it's just so funny because he has no way to like talk about his emotions towards her and like all this pent up anger he has. He just keeps saying, "What are you gonna do?" And I resonate with like that's just so fucking funny. Yeah.
What I find about that show, it's fascinating, is I think just the fact of how ahead of the curve it was at the time. Because I feel like, in particular, right, and I think he's such a good example of that older generation, like our parents. I don't want to maybe put your parents into this, so I'll speak more towards mine because I come from like an Italian background.
Yeah.
It's that aspect of, and I think this is maybe an older, even European concept where like men just did not talk about their emotions. Like it was like
I'm Irish Catholic. It's the same.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah,
all right. Exactly.
That's why I think that episode's so funny because I was just literally like, yo, this is literally like I hear my dad say, "What are you gonna do?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So so
it's fascinating to me.
The family dynamic.
And just how that with men's mental health, how much of a it's almost more relevant today than it was when it came out 25 years ago.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool aspect. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. It was like almost ahead of its time from the messages it was trying to send. Not so much of like the actual, you know, the not the violence, but just like the sort of the drama and the actual concept of the show wasn't, I guess, ahead of its time necessarily, but from the standpoint of that, where you're a lot of like the elements you're talking about, I feel like it's such a poignant thing to go back on and look, oh wow, like they were really bringing up a lot of crazy stuff that again is so much resonates and is relatable to today. So anyway,
no, it's such an expansive show. Sometimes I forget that the original plot line is that it's a mob boss talking to his therapist.
Yeah, I mean that's literally the opening of the opening episode.
It is deeply
opening
about,
scene.
It's about so many different things.
Sure,
but it is about that.
But that for sure.
Even a show about a man going to therapy is like, I mean, most dudes don't do that.
No, 100%. Yeah, and the kids have a podcast now. The ones that played. I don't know if you've heard it.
Meadow and AJ.
Yes, they have.
I've never seen.
I haven't heard it.
I've seen the one.
I've seen clips, but
there's a whole. I always forget it. Bobby Bacala and Chris. They have their own podcast where they go through every single episode of the series and they talk about
That's
it.
great. Yeah,
and they bring up a lot of guests.
If you're a Sopranos fan, I'm sure that's like a deep dive.
Yeah.
Last question for you. This is another show that I know you're a huge fan of, Trailer Park Boys. What's one of your what do you think is one of Jim Leahy's best shitisms?
Damn, Soap's gonna love that one too. Shit leopard like never loses its spots or something. That one's hilarious.
Never really seen the show, so I'm leaning on you right now.
That's funny. Me and Soap be doing that all the time. There's so many. We actually watched a YouTube video of his shitisms. I can't. The shit leopard one is hilarious, and then he called. Dude, I'm just gonna have to go back and remember after. But the shit leopard one is what sticks out to me the most. It's fucking hilarious.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, that was pop quiz with Connis. Did pretty well. I think you passed.
Thank you. Sweet.
Definitely passed.
Sweet.
Back to more pressing matters.
Yeah.
Your music.
Yes.
The new Sky album with Low Effort. Not out yet, right? As we're recording this. I know the single with Felix is already out as we're recording this, Best Friend. So with this body of work, what was it about working with someone like Low Effort that made it make sense to have like a full-fledged project with them. And I've had these, I've had these conversations with people in the past, and maybe as being a producer and an artist, you'll have a unique perspective on this. Cause I had like just Capo in here a long time ago, or, a year and a half ago now. And he did a full project with SK, and, I've asked this question a bunch of times, but I'm curious, like, what are the like sort of advantages and disadvantages of working with like a lone producer on a long-term body of work? Like, I know that's kind of becoming more of a theme. Oh, Melks is another producer who does this a lot. We've actually had him in here twice for that reason, because he's worked with a different artist on a whole body of work.
Project, yeah.
So from your perspective, like, what do you think maybe as an artist in this case, what is such a maybe great thing about that? Like, was it, and what maybe led you both to wanting to like sort of pursue that long-term project, that more, obviously longer project?
I think Low Effort Rome has such a specific sound that when we started making some songs together, and I met Rome we did a session, we met virtually first, like in the pandemic, when I was still living in New Orleans, but then I moved to New York, and that's when we first linked up, and we like made a handful of records. And then I was just like, nobody else really like sound like your production, like it, not saying it couldn't work alongside other production, but I was just like, it's takes up a lot of space. Like it's defiantly his sound and style, that I was just like, it's only right that, these songs that we're making, like they should be out, and at a certain point, I mean, like I was just there, once we started working on it, I was like, all right, well, this is what I'm working on. I'm not even really like, I'm still like producing and maybe recording some other things, but for the most part, is like those were the songs that I was working on. I think it's just like he has such a specific sound that and also we just got to know each other. Like we became friends, and he's like one of my close friends now, like through the process of doing sessions and making music, that we kind of just made a bunch of stuff. And then we like looked back at it and we were like, well, we have like an album's worth of stuff. Like what do we go back to and like change and like touch up to like, I don't know, make it like to like complete it. I think for me, one of the disadvantages, like I'm so used to being a producer that like giving up that control aspect. Also, Rome's like approach to production is so much more like messy and like just like impressionism, just like he's just splatters paint on it, whereas like I think I'm more like fine lined with strokes. I'd like almost like to be more like messy like that, but historically I've always been more like tactile with my shit. That giving up the control is, but that's I don't even want to say that that's been a disadvantage or a bad thing, because it's taught me a lot. Being a producer, but taking like not being, we always talk about the term backseat producer. Like he hates when people like backseat produce, where he's like, I know, like I got this, like just trust me. But he also knows me as a producer and knows my abilities. So he's like, trust me, like all of the songs that we made have been really like collaborative and 50-50 efforts. But yeah, I mean, we just started working on stuff, and also I was just in a place like going through things in life where just the almost like the melancholic like tones that he uses in his production were just like, this is the type of music I want to make right now. I'm not trying to make no upbeat like rap album right now. This is gonna have more indie alternative influence, like a lot more Motown bass lines and all live instrumentation. Like every song on that album has at least one or two live instruments on it. We tracked most of the drums on it. There are a couple that are like MIDI drums and like more like done through the computer, but he's an amazing, he could play the bass, he could play guitar, he could play the drums. So it was just like, it just felt like the right time to ease into that. And it was really, it's weird because I feel like we could honestly keep working on it and changing it because he has such like a malleable sound. But yeah, it just like felt right to just be like, all right, like you should be producing this whole thing. And I've always encouraged, like, I love producers releasing music collaboratively and having their name on their releases. And not just being the producer that's in the liner notes, but like not like Connis produced by Low Effort, like Connis and Low Effort. Yeah, it just felt like right. Yeah.
Well, to your point, that's why my initial goal of Masterclass, the album that I'm releasing and have worked on for the last few years and am now in releasing, is that, like, I thought it made more sense to like start having, and I think more producers are doing it, but like you're saying, to actually put producers' names on the music.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was like something that I never really saw happen until like maybe the last 4 to 5 years. I feel like it's happening
it's been
more.
happening a lot
more, which is a good thing.
Yeah, you'd only really see producers. I guess it all depends. I mean,
and not to say that people weren't doing it.
Yeah.
I just think it's more of a regular practice now, or a commonality, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like K Tronado really like pushed that in like modern years.
His
debut had a bunch of features on it, and now all of his albums always have like vocalist features. But yeah.
No, again, that was a big thing. Like, it was cool for not like, I think that's why a lot of the producers that are on the project, they liked the idea, because it was like almost a reverse, where it's like most artists are always looking for, oh, hey, who has beats?
Yeah.
Versus this was like, who has a great verse, who has raps, and who has a great verse or a great hook.
I love that.
That would be worth being on these producers' songs.
Yeah.
So we almost inverse the order of like how, not to say that that's not always the way it goes, but like, inverse the order of how that typically does go. Yeah. So, and I think a lot of producers appreciated that. So that's why, and then it was a fun exercise, and we have 20 great songs coming out for it. So not to make it about me, but I just, when you said that, I was like, oh, that actually, like, I can almost resonate with that in a lot of ways.
For sure.
So, but that's really cool about the album, like, that you guys it was a more collaborative effort between the two of you, and also like your ability, I think, to like actually take that back seat on the production side, as hard as it maybe was for you. That's, I think, in a lot of ways, a great growth moment for you as a collaborator, right? You know,
totally. And but I mean, any time I had ideas, it was like well received, and like always, just very collaborative process. Like that's what it should be. You know?
Is there a release date for the project, or is it still kind of
not
in
really?
flux?
We're trying to we're trying to finish up a couple things, get some visuals done. I mean, I've been doing this for so long. I think there have been many periods in my life where I feel very pressured to put out an output, and just the way that I look at music and art in my life at this point in my career, like once we decided that it was finished and gotten most of the mix, the engineering, the mixing and mastering like done to our liking, we were just like, all right, like this has been like, we're just gonna do a release, we're gonna do a listening party. Like, I don't give a fuck when this is gonna come out. Let's just do a listening party. Let's just give it to people. Let's let people hear it maybe a month or months before it actually comes out. Just to get the ball rolling. I did that with when I released Connis. I think I want to say I did a release party in a listening party in January of 2019, and then I didn't release it till March. So yeah, it was just like, bro, we just gotta like, this is a first step. If we play this aloud for people and say it's coming out, that means that it's gonna like come out. So let's just let's just kickstart it.
Speak that into existence.
Yeah.
Well, New Sky album with Low Effort coming soon. Maybe when this drops, it'll be pretty close to when it's going to be released, when this episode comes out. Yeah. But be on the lookout for that. And the single Best Friend with Felix is out now. Do you mind if we play a clip of that one for the people? Just get a little taste of the album, what it might be. All right. So this is Best Friend, the new single from Connis and Low Effort, featuring Felix of Van Buren. And we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
1, 2, 3. I could be your best friend. Don't know when I turn into a yes man. I'ma stick around until the night ends. Baby, I could pay for your flight back if you like that. Would you like that? We'll spread the numbers on the price tag. Fuck it, in a month I make it right back. For now I'ma pull you up a night. Cat, would you like that?
Let's gotta do better, just cause it's stressing. We used to spend dinners with auntie cousins at Christmas and family functions. Interrupt
And that was Best Friend by Connis and Low Effort featuring Felix. It's out now on all platforms. We'll link it in the description below of this episode. Don't go anywhere quite yet with Connis. We're still got a couple of questions left, but at the conclusion of the episode, if you like what you heard, make sure you save that to a playlist or wherever you get your music, and obviously be on the lookout for the full body of work. One thing you had said that I want to just go back to quickly about the album, and I wanted to actually commend you for, because you had said that you feel like you're in a space where you're in that more melancholy, more heady rap. And one of my favorite songs of yours is actually Highs and Lows. That came out this year. It came out this year.
Yeah. It came out
early in the year, though, right? It was earlier in the year.
I think probably. I dropped it on my birthday. I think I put it on my birthday in March 26th.
Got it. I feel like it was earlier in the year. But anyway, I feel as though, and you probably feel this way too, that is just where you're at as an artist. And I think it's for the better, because I think you're in such a good place sonically with that style. Yeah. I'm really glad to hear that you're leaning into that. Yeah. So most of my favorite songs of yours have always been the more, I would say, melancholy sounding ones. So it's
funny. That song is like more, I mean, I don't know if upbeat is the right word, because when
it does have a little bit of a like higher
that's even more boppy than the type of shit I was making with Rome. Like the type of stuff with Rome was like more indie and more singing, and not even like really, it's the least amount of rap that I've put into a project. That's pretty cool. Highs and Lows, that's like more like a fun, that's just like, that's me having fun with it. I'm always trying to like come back to that place. I like sounding I mean, I feel like that song is a balance of it being very like tiptoe-ish and like silly, but also like hungry. And that's like a fine line that I feel like I like to tiptoe. That's a fun song. That one like just kind of came together. Like felt like naturally. I didn't feel like I had to think about that one much. Whereas a lot of the stuff with Rome, with Low Effort has been more like sourced from like a deeper place. Like that was just like fucking around. That was like almost just like a freestyle, really. Yeah.
Well, I like that song a lot. Then it's even better. Then to that point, I'm glad you're even going deeper into that bag.
Yeah.
It was fun, but I did feel like you sang a lot more. You were singing a little bit more on that song than I feel like I'd heard you sing before. Maybe that's more what I'm getting at. But either way, you also dropped another single pretty recently with Go-Go.
Liquid.
So talk to me about working with him, because he seems like he's in a little bit different of a sonic space. So I was curious a little bit about quickly just working with him on that song. And, that's another great gem.
Yo, we made that. People don't even believe when we made that. That song is old as fuck. We made that song probably in like 2019.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think we made that literally like 5 years ago. I don't even know why it took so long to come out. It felt like good timing though. Go-Go makes a lot of like electronic music. He's making like some new age. I mean, I don't even want to just call it electronic. It's his own style, but it's like a mix of electronic, Afro, I'm a piano inspired. Like,
I was about to say very Afro, like a lot of his stuff's very Afro.
Very like pop oriented too. I mean, like that's like pop music to me in a sense.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean that's like one of my best friends too. So I feel like it's never, even if like sonically that doesn't sound like as much as of the stuff that I've put out over the years. I feel like it's easy for me to step into really any shoes, and I feel like I have an ability to kind of like make a lot of different kinds of songs. And especially if I'm like collaborating with someone and I'm meeting them somewhere, because that's me on his song, like it's even easier for me. Sometimes I feel like my best verses, if it's like rap or a song like that, like come when I hop on somebody's song, because I feel like I'm in my own world a lot making my music. I like stepping into other people's, but then I also feel like a lot of people respect my music for like, you know, however they relate to it, and like are always curious to like step, like I want to get on in like a Connis type of vibe or something. But yeah, Go-Go, we made that song, I'm not even like 5 years ago. It's I was trying to like remember just like where I was at when that was being made, and Yeah, but Gogo is just like fun to make music with because he's just like has such high energy in his music and is always just like turnt in his music. So it's like I have to meet him like a level up, you know, and like at like a high energy standpoint, which is fun for me and pretty easy because it's just like at the end of the day, it's like it's always just like comes back to like you're just making music with your people and it's just like fun and like that's like the root of it. So
As it should be.
yeah, I love making music with like, you know, like him, Soap too. Soap, me and Soap have been working on a project.
You guys have collaborated a lot in the past. I know you guys are close friends.
Yeah. I'm producing a whole project for Soap right now. Nice. It's sounding really good. He just put out like, and same with him. Like, I mean, he has lots of different flavors as Gogo does. Soap just put out like a rock album straight up. It has a lot of other influences and like, you know, you hear auto-tune, you hear like Soap's style all over it, but the production and the music it's rock music. Like it's like a new age, new era kind, but
Love that.
yeah, but yeah, Liquid's a fun song and yeah, shout out to Gogo. Gogo's he's killing it. We've been DJing a lot together too, which has been fun cuz it's like a new way to collaborate and like get off that expression with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was I definitely enjoyed the song, so I'll also link that one too. So make sure you guys check that one out.
Liquid, yeah.
And it's out now. Big shout out to GoGo as well.
Yeah.
I'll have to have you on here pretty soon, GoGo.
Yeah, get him on
We'd love to have you on.
Yeah.
So my last question, the main lesson, is on the performance aspect. I know you bounce back and forth a lot between New York and here. You perform a lot in New York, and or at least have recently. You know, what is it about? I know you lived there for a time too. So what is it about New York and it being a place that you feel, I guess, not only comfortable to, you know, perform in, but is it just being such a familiar, you know, spot for you? Like what is it about performing in New York that brings you back? Continues to bring you back, I should say.
Yeah, and I've been spinning there a lot more than anything as of late. But I moved to New York. I mean, when New York is like, I mean, that's like the birthplace of rap music for one, but it's just such a creative hub. Like I always really say New York is like the capital of the world. Like if you had to choose the capital of the world, like it's got to be New York. 'Cause you can just, there's so much life and energy and like walks of life there. I lived in New York when I was like really young. Like when I left college and I was like 20 years old, when I dropped out of school, I was there when I was like 20 and 21. And have always had collaborators, friends there. It just feels like kind of, you know, and it's close. It's like, it's East Coast. It's 4 hours away. It's always felt like a second home to me. And like I have real community there. It's just like, honestly now, and also just like being back in Boston, it's just like that place is just, I love my peaceful little Cambridge quiet life. Like that's like I'm getting older, like that's what I seek out. But I love going to New York to like do shows and just like, you know, just like party and just like have fun.
It's
like
having the access, but you also like to leave. I'm right there.
Yeah. I like I don't always feel like I have to be, I'm not the type of person that like feels like I always have to be like super like in the mix. I like dipping my toes to being in the mix, and it's like almost like whenever I mean, I'm just not like I'm a grandfather or some shit, but like I feel like when I even pop out in Boston, I see people are like shocked to see me or something. Like they're just like so happy to see me because like maybe I don't know, or maybe over the years I just haven't been shown as much face as I have, like I don't know, like in a time like 2019, but that was like such a formative time for the scene that it felt like whenever there was anything going on, you were bound to run into people. And but no, New York is just like it's just like it's like a second home for me. I feel like I have homes in a lot of places and homes in a lot of people, and I just have a lot of like friends and community there, and like venues and people that just like fuck with the energy that I bring. So yeah, I've been DJing out there like more, just at like a handful of venues and spots where I just like know management and just like bring out good vibes and good people and just kind of just like, I don't know, have fun with it. But Yeah, I feel like that's a second home. I feel like Boston is right there. I feel like Boston is one of those places where it's just like the difference between New York and Boston is in size, but it's like, you know, in New York there could be 4 different waves going on a Saturday or Friday that you really want to get to. Whereas in Boston, like the most will be like 2. You know, there could be
But it's
like
getting there though.
No,
It
is.
didn't used to be. At least like even years ago, like I didn't feel like there was even 2 things to go to. Like
Yeah.
even just this past weekend as we're recording this, there were 2 really cool conferences being put on by
Yeah.
Mass Music Summit and Exposed, and then Stiz was home putting on Commonwealth
Yeah,
Fest, and it was just
yeah.
like, what the fuck do I even go to at this point?
Yeah, no,
You know what I mean?
there should be that. You should be
I know.
like
I think
tied
it's-
on
I
like,
agree.
oh shit, well I gotta go to this thing and go to this thing. I think yeah, I mean I think Boston like we need more spaces. We always have. We always will need more spaces.
Agreed.
I think that
Agreed.
there's so much money that just gets put into bullshit, and a lot more could actually go into like Boston over the years has funded the arts like a lot more, like significantly more, but there's really no like limit to how much more
Agreed.
can get funded.
Agreed.
Spaces, just making stuff more accessible, making it easier for artists to live and survive and eat in the city. It's so hard to secure housing and like have like a comfortable space to live and work out of in the city. And I think like
it's nearly impossible.
if that was more accessible, the art scene is inevitably gonna thrive from that and get even bigger. But it has come a long way. I mean, like I feel like now like I'm like there's a whole new generation of young kids that are like, I don't want to call them young kids, that are just younger than me, that are like, you know, early 20s, 22, 23-year-olds that I'm like, they're providing for that. Because I feel like there are a lot of people from the 2019 era that like we've like set waves, set some like landing strips, and then like we've all kind of gone in different directions. And you see like yeah, I mean, you just see there's so many people. I mean, like when I think about that time, obviously, you know, I think about VB and I think about grunge and Cave and Rams and like all these people that are very important to the scene, but we've also like grown as artists in ways that it's like you can constantly give back and contribute to the scene, but also like you pass that, like you let the young heads really like while out and take, like, you know, that's what it's all about, is like leaving it to the next one. So yeah, I see so many like young artists that I'm like coming out of Boston. I'm like, shit, like, I didn't even know, like it's getting put onto him. Like I didn't even know, I don't even know who this is, you know? And that's like what it's about. That's like what's dope. Like I feel like I'm constantly getting put on to new acts, and yeah, I need to work with some more of the young heads. I still stay collaborating with the same people from that era in 2019, but yeah, I gotta send some text messages, get some numbers, and send some shit to some of these like new young heads. And especially like I one thing I want to say is that I went to a show months ago that Sosa put together, and it was the For Her By Her, and it was the first time I had ever seen a rap show in Boston with all female acts. It wasn't just rap. There were some R&B singers. There were people that were on some like harder, more alternative shit. But I think I don't even know how I'm pivoting to this. Just speaking of the growth of the scene, like seeing like femme representation, like pop show up like that. Like I was at that show, like actually like so moved to be able to see that, because that was not even something that was happening 5 years ago to a couple years ago. So I think that's the illest shit, seeing like more of an outlet for the femme artists in Boston, and just like rappers. Like it was so cool to see that, because that just wasn't a thing. I mean,
the females.
I don't
killing
even
it
like
right now.
going to I don't know how people feel. I don't even want to go to a show that has all dudes on it. Like I don't
Hell
want to
no.
go to that.
Hell no.
You still see it a lot. You still will see it a lot. It's just like, yo, nobody wants to fucking go to a show with all dudes. It's just like it's a fact. So
I've been getting into the event throwing space. I threw 4 or 5 last year, and I got a few coming up this. Well, I should say no, because No, over the last calendar year, I should say, I've thrown about
We
5
should
or
be
6.
outnumbered now. Like the way that the,
Well, that's
the
what I mean.
shorties are coming in Boston is like
Well,
they're coming out way harder than
They're
dudes.
killing it, man.
Yeah.
There's a great number of amazing, talented.
Yeah, there's even that
female
show coming up with like Key and I think
Key,
I
Zed
think
Kenzo,
Zed Kenzo and Nay,
Cake Swag.
Cake Swag, yeah.
I mean, bro, the names in this scene right now are endless. Those 3 off the top of your head. You obviously had just mentioned Sosa.
Yeah.
Isha's fucking
Isha
everywhere
Isha
right
from
now.
the 978,
She's
right? Yeah,
killing
she's
it.
Fire.
Brandy Blaze has been a staple for a
Yeah.
long time. Obviously you're Amanda Shays. There's just so many. I'm forgetting people, I'm sure too, but there's just so many. Hey Sis as an artist I came onto recently that I'm really enjoying. Tori, her sister, younger sister Lila's getting out here.
Yeah, Lila's crazy.
She's so
that whole
dope.
family.
I mean, see, I told you there was some I was forgetting, and now I'm meaning to bring.
It's just
it's really, really dope.
it's dope to see that.
Shout out to the females for sure. They're
yeah.
really, really doing some great things.
Yeah,
and
that
there
that
were
wasn't
certain
a thing.
artists that paved the way, like your Brandies, your Red Shades is
Oompa.
Oompa. Oh my God, how did I forget Oompa? Right? She's
Yeah.
another one where
Dutch.
absolutely. There you go.
Yeah, there's yeah. It's just it runs deep, but
It
it's
runs
just
deep.
really dope to see that. It feels
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I shouldn't even have to mention it like it's some like big deal. It's not a big deal. It
Yeah.
should just be like now it is what it is. So
It should
let's
be,
just
yeah.
keep that same energy going.
But I think it's good to recognize how far it's come, right?
really
Because I do
has.
agree with you. It should just be the norm.
No,
Every
there were some
show you
shows in
see-
2019 where I'm just like, damn, like I'm not getting asked to do another show. There's no woman on this bill. Like I don't want to fucking.
No, there
do it.
needs to be that balance, right? You have to strike a balance
Yeah.
somewhere with that.
and that was like aside from just the whole bill being, no dudes on it. Like the show was amazing. Like the show was so good. Dane too, Pimp Daddy Dane. That's another one. Like so just more of that and just more of
Way
just
more
like
of that.
passing the torch to the young heads.
No, I agree. I'm so glad to see, where just where the scene's at in general. I didn't want to even just say that, right? Like you kind of were going on a fantastic rant. I'm really glad that you were, and about just the next sort of that generation of talent that's in that 20 to 25 age bracket where you and I both were about 5 years ago. It's cool to see that and still be a part of it, but like you said, allow them to sort of take the reins now. Hey,
We'll take it to the next spot.
take that to the next level.
Yeah.
And shout out to every, whatever gender you are,
Yeah,
all the gendered, different acts that are in Boston that are just in Massachusetts as a whole. I always like to say that too. Millie's has said that a million times where he's like, it's not just Boston. And I
all
completely,
Massachusetts,
it's all Massachusetts. It's just so many great musicians and acts and just people really doing some special stuff out here.
Yeah.
And it's cool to witness. And I can't wait to see where we're at in 5 years,
Yeah, me too.
but Connis, it's been a friggin' awesome episode, bro. I'm
Yeah,
so glad
man.
you came through finally. It's been a long time coming for sure. And I know we had even rescheduled this a couple times this year,
for
but I
sure.
didn't even say over the years is you're somebody I've wanted to have on for a while. So I'm glad we got to do this.
Thank you, Mike.
and chop it up. It's been a really special episode. I can't let you go quite yet.
Okay.
Last segment of the show is called the open response.
Mm-hmm.
And as you see, we're going it's a little bit of a class sort of structure
No, it's
here.
good.
It's just one question, and in the open response, we do the dream song scenario. So
Dream song.
I'll keep it simple for you. You get a song. It's a Connis song. You can get 1 to 2 producers. You can produce it too if you want. And you get up to 3 guest features. Who would be on Connis's dream song scenario?
Fuck. Producer wise, I'll think of off the top. I just saw K-Tronada live, and he's just heavy on my mind.
His new album's really good, by the way.
And not that he's not like an all time, but he's just fresh in my mind and newer. I'll say him. Now I'll think of a producer that's more like all time, forever. Probably like K-Tronada and like Timbaland. Probably them on the beat. Or I feel like Pharrell is like an always easy one.
I thought you were going to say Pharrell.
Yeah. I would say I just want to mix some old, some new. And then you said 3 like features almost, or two.
You get up to 3.
Up
You don't
to
need
3.
to use all 3, but you get up to 3. That's the sort of the exercise.
I would say probably one of them would have to be. This is hard. Probably like. I'm also just trying to think in the sense of like who would I actually sound like good with, because I'm thinking of like super greats.
It's so funny how some people take this. Like some people think of it as like
I'm trying to
I
think
just
of it
wanna
realistically.
yeah, some people I'm just gonna throw a bunch of stuff together because like they're my favorite artists and we'll make it work. And other
Yeah.
people like you are sitting here going like I really want to mold this. To
I mean,
be
probably like Erykah Badu.
Ooh.
Let me look at like
Yeah, you draw some inspiration. The wall's got plenty.
Erykah Badu. Shit, I could say Andre 3000. They have a baby together, so they have fucking.
That is true. I forgot about
adds
that.
up. Maybe Andre, and then
Andre and Eric, you want to make one more baby for Connis?
Yo, dead
metaphorically speaking.
Yeah. Shit. Honestly, probably like, shit. Maybe Tyler.
That'd be fun.
I kind of want to think of someone that's like a little. I really love this artist River Tiber.
Not familiar.
That I would love to like work with. And then I'm also thinking all the time. It's such a hard question, but I'm gonna say like Timbaland / Pharrell with K Tronada on the beat.
Okay.
Erykah Badu doing more of like the harmonic vocals, maybe like an Andre 3000 verse, and then probably, if I'm being honest, probably like Frank Ocean too. So yeah,
okay.
Frank Ocean.
I think that works.
Andre
That
3000,
sounds nice.
Erykah Badu, Timbaland, and
K Tronada.
K Tronada. Then if like Tyler walks in the room, or if we could bring Mac Miller's spirit back to life too. All of those.
I forgot to mention that it was Dead or Alive. I don't know why.
Yeah, Dead or
So-
Alive.
so-
Yeah, shit. Definitely.
I always say that, but I
Max in
completely
that
forgot.
Max in that category too. Then because I love his music too.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well, I think it would be a smash hit no matter what. It
Thank you, bro.
sounds like a plan.
appreciate it.
Connis, thanks so much for being here, bro.
My guy. Thank you, man.
It's been a pleasure. All that's left to do now is just let the people know where they can find you. If anyone else you want to specifically shout out, anything last you want to say, now's the time.
You can find me on You can find me on your streaming platforms. Connis, CONNIS. Instagram, Twitter, CONNIS with 5 S's. Connis. Until the person that has that handle just gives it up to me, because they don't even use it on Instagram or Twitter. It's just collecting dust.
Cross the room,
I
Pete.
need that. So go spam. Yeah, go spam the person that's at Connis the way I spell it, and tell them to just like let me buy it off them for like the 10th time.
Pete from Say That, their show Across the Room, he says the same thing. Somebody has Say That podcast, so his is like underscores on all of them. And he's so pissed because the person that owns it, I guess, doesn't use it or whatever. So anyway.
But yeah, you can find me there. You can find me DJing, performing in Boston and really New York, anywhere on any random day. And yeah, I got a new project coming out before the year's up. Maybe it's mid-October right now, maybe in November. Maybe that's when it'll come out. Yeah.
Well, maybe this episode will already be out at that point, or it'll be out while this episode drops. Who knows?
Yeah.
But if you are a fan of Connis and just being introduced to us for the first time, you can follow us at Turntable Teachers on Instagram and TikTok. Hit up our website, turntableteachers.com, for all the latest. And as always, if you're a podcaster, artist, creative of any kind, make sure you reach out to us at aoastudios.org to book your session or service today. We are in the heart of Beverly, Massachusetts, up on the North Shore. So especially if you're up on the North Shore, make sure you come check us out. Once again, Connis, thanks so much for being here, man. This has been a pleasure.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for this podcast. Keep teaching the kids. They're the future. Let's get them off the screens. Get their heads in the books or in some headphones, listening to some music.
Kind of a full circle moment, because we were talking about that off air before we started. So there you go. What a way to end it. So as always, I'm Mike. That's Connis with the Turntable Teachers, and class is officially dismissed.
Turn,